Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. So this week I have decided to do a little mini series on some mid-year shadow work. It's already June, which is so crazy to me, and this year is moving extremely fast, and I decided that it's time to do a little reevaluation and kind of get ourselves back on track. So for the last 2 or so weeks, I've been thinking about how I want to sort of film this and how I want to share this. And so I've decided to make this into a more organized series and something that I can, categorize and compartmentalize into something that's doable for you guys to see and for me to achieve. I'm going to try to be very straight in this series because I feel like a lot of the time we tend to film a lot of positive things and we tend to share a lot of positive things about our lives and what's working out, and sometimes we forget that it's important to also share the struggles and what got us to all of the achievements. So as a lot of you know, I tend to do a lot of journaling and planning videos and a lot of organization, getting myself into things, and then I achieve what I've needed to achieve. But recently, because of this mid-year sort of exhaustion that I'm feeling, and I kind of just don't feel very refreshed anymore. I think my nervous system needs a bit of a reset, and the season change has also really impacted, I guess, my motivation, my moods, and, my purpose for my goals and the things I intended to do. And so I think it's important to get to the bottom of that in order to come back as a better person and come back more fulfilled. So I've got my journal opened with me, and I did want to explain the thought process behind doing this. So to kind of break down shadow work is essentially the psychological concept, and it's a little spiritual as well. It is based on Carl Jung's shadow self from his sort of archetype theory. And essentially the shadow self is perceived as the dark or kind of the negative part of your unconscious that you generally feel ashamed of, or something that you don't encourage. Now, where shadow work comes in, it is kind of uncovering that bit of yourself and exploring yourself with a little bit more curiosity rather than critique and judgment. A lot of the time, the shadow self is developed from a lot of childhood experiences because that is your early life, and usually you are formed by what is happening around you. There's a nature versus nurture argument, and often it's nurture with children. And we're sometimes taught what kind of behaviors and emotions are considered rewarding versus punishable. And so as a child, you may have picked up that, being jealous or showing extreme passionate emotion, whether it is extreme excitement or extreme anger, is something that is not really looked well upon and is sometimes punishable. And they may be other behaviors you displayed that were more rewarding to those who were around you. And so the ones that were kind of punishable and, that you perceived as bad are part of now this shadow self that you kind of keep in the back. But the thing is that everything has its way of coming forward. And so the purpose of shadow work is not necessarily to neglect your shadow self, but sort of approach it with curiosity and explore what behaviors you have been displaying recently that may stem from your shadow self. I did a little bit of journaling this morning and sort of writing down what I wanted to get out of this and where I wanted to get my shadow work done. And sometimes even if the shadow self is perceived as some sort of negative emotions or negative traits that you have for yourself, it can also be seen as you being too critical of yourself or you being too hard on yourself for things like taking some self-care, for being ambitious, for being confident. A lot of the time, those things are perceived as being arrogant or being too self-centered and selfish. And sometimes we tend to feel shame for wanting to put time into ourselves and develop ourselves and look into who we are and investigate ourselves. And it's really evident, especially if you're experiencing lots of burnout, acting out, anxiety around certain things, or even if you're projecting certain things that you perceive as flaws onto others. And my goal for my shadow work is essentially to dive deep into what has been making me anxious lately, what has been making me perceive myself a certain way, what has been making me feel very critical of myself and not allowing me to achieve the goals I set out to achieve, especially at the beginning of the year. I feel like a lot of us are very motivated and so hyped up about the beginning of the year that we forget about it in the middle of the year. And I like to perceive myself as a very ambitious kind of person, someone who is a very get-go. And sometimes when I finish and complete my goals too early, I tend to feel like, okay, what now? And so I think it's time to reevaluate everything that I have done for myself, everything that I haven't done, and new things that I may want to do. And so I kind of divided, you know, my shadow work, I guess, into different categories of my life and things that I want to focus on. So I do have work, I've got hobbies, I've got finances, I've got health, relationships, my digital life, and some education. And these different parts of my life kind of make up, you know, my daily self. And I have been finding that there are certain things that I need to work on in each little part of these. And there are bits of my shadow self that I'm starting to see in all of these aspects of my life, and we need to get to the bottom of it. So throughout this week, I think I'm going to be tackling different aspects and different parts of my life each day and kind of break it down. I have to get back on track, and we have to be even better for the second half of the year. And so today is Monday. It is the first day of this shadow work sort of series, and I have decided that today I'm going to be working on my finances and I'm going to be working on my health. And starting off with finances, I did a lot of my financial updating and a lot of like filling in my financial things and details that I had to for May, and it got me thinking that I need to do a little revamp of what are the goals financially for June onward. What am I happy with? What was I annoyed with? What was great financially? What sucked financially? The second thing is my physical health, particularly this is exercise. I have been wanting to redesign my workout structure for a while now. It's been 6 months. I usually change my split 3 months after one another, but this year I decided to wait 6 months because there were some major changes, and now I think we need to reevaluate some of my training splits and some of my goals. So here we are. I'm going to focus on the first kind of aspect of my life that I want to reflect on and really realign on, and that is my exercise and my fitness goals. So over here I have my fitness sort of diary or journal. I kind of keep this journal because it's helped me really track all of my fitness goals and my splits and training over the last 4 years. It really just started from when I wanted to like kind of track what kind of exercises I was doing, what splits and what kind of intensities of workouts sort of sat with me and that I saw my goals materialize with, or what kind of training splits really helped with the goals that I had in mind then. I think 3 years ago, my biggest goal was to kind of just bulk up a little, get as much muscle as possible, and then it kind of turned into strength training. I started lifting weights in like 2022, and I was phasing out of karate, which I did for 14 years, and that was very heartbreaking for me because I felt like I was moving out of a certain phase, and so I decided to replace that heartbreak and I guess that sort of phase with something else, and that turned out to be weightlifting. And since then it's kind of just become something of my daily life. I feel very, I don't know how to say it without sounding too critical of myself, but to be fair, I feel very unproductive if I have not gotten a lifting session in. And since then, I have kind of gone up and down on what my goals have been. Sometimes it was to get leaner, sometimes it was to maintain muscle mass, and sometimes it was to kind of work on my strength for certain muscle groups. And recently, for the last year and a half almost, I have been doing something called cycle syncing on my exercise routine, and that's literally just been syncing the intensity of my split to what week of my menstrual cycle I'm on. So during the first week of the menstrual cycle, you're usually on your period, and that's kind of like a motivational week for me because it just works off of what I'm feeling that week. Sometimes the weeks are really intense with my symptoms, and sometimes I feel great. So it's not necessarily a restricting thing, it's something that I just go on based on motivation. So if I feel one day that my energy is really low and my symptoms are really bad, maybe I've got a migraine, maybe I've got really heavy flow, I will just do some light training on that day, and then maybe the next day I feel great and I will just smash out a good session. Then the second week is usually your follicular, so that is where your hormones start to pick up, and that's where I tend to do a lot more like drop sets, a lot more hypertrophy, where I kind of tire out my muscles just to see and test where I am in terms of strength and where I can go for my ovulation week. Now my ovulation week is obviously the peak week. That's the week where your hormones are supposed to be at their height, and that's where I find that my testosterone is also activated, simply because I have polycystic ovaries, or PMOS, which is polyendocrine metabolic ovarian syndrome, which they renamed. But essentially, if you know PCOS, I have it, and I got diagnosed at 19. And I guess lifting has kind of helped me cope with, being on birth control for the last 3 years to get rid of some of the symptoms. That's also something I've really been grappling with, because I don't know, you hear different things from different people, and I myself had really hectic experiences with the different ones I've been on over these last few years, and how it's been affecting my feminine hormones and how it's been impacting my testosterone. And so due to that, during my ovulation week, I tend to go extreme, and I do like my PRs, which is like your personal rep maxes in 1 week. So during my ovulation week, the compounded exercises that I'd like to max out on, which is usually squat and deadlift, and sometimes barbell rows, shoulder press, those kinds of big exercises for me, I like to max out on those during my ovulation week, because that's usually the week where I feel most energized. And then the 4th week is PMS week. I call that a deload week for myself, because I tend to focus a lot more on volume, and volume just means more reps at a lower weight. And I guess I've had to just learn this over the last 3 years, which has been tough, but I'm glad I found a nice sort of balance in my workout routine. And my training split stays the same every week. So I train the same muscle groups on the designated day every week. It just changes based on intensity, depending on which week of my cycle I'm on. Again, I've been doing it for about 4 years now, and this is what works for me based on the research and my body. So my last split kind of went as follows. It was Mondays are essentially arms and isolations, where I do triceps, biceps, my delt muscle group, which is essentially just like rear delts and my side delts. And then Tuesdays are my first leg day of the week, where I do hamstrings and glutes. Wednesdays become my shoulder day and a bit of chest, but I have been slow on the chest side because I have this feeling that I don't really need to be training chest. But I do need to train it because it is a muscle, and I do need to still maintain some strength there. And then Thursdays are my back day, so full back. And then Saturday or Sunday, depending on which day I am usually available or which day I have more time and I've recovered enough, is my second leg day, where I do quads and glutes. Now, I've had this split for around about 8 months now, which means I started it at the end of last year and I've continued it now until June. And usually I switch it up a little, but it's really been working well for me, especially with training intensity wise. And I've really made my goals since then. And I think the only goal I really wanted to have this year was to introduce fasted cardio in the morning. And for the first 3 months of this year, from January until March, I did fasted cardio every single morning from Monday to Friday for 30 minutes to 45 minutes on the Stairmaster, and then I would do my weight training in the evening. And the goal of this was to kind of see how much body fat I can drop while maintaining muscle and strength. And it's safe to say I dropped about 2 kilos. And so this really helps with things like insulin resistance, non-alcoholic fatty liver, and all of the other side effects that come with hormone disorders, which I'm also still battling to wrap my head around. And now that that's worked out for me, I know that doing fasted cardio is something that really helps, and also eating my last meal before 6 p.m. has also helped. And so now I don't really want to change anything, but I kind of want to keep my split the same. And so I think I'm going to do that. But I think I also want to take out a second leg day. As I said before, I have been working quite a lot on the weekends, trying to organize workshops and trying to, keep up with all my students and their exams. And I've also been neglecting my second leg day, which is on the weekends. And I find that when I do it on a Sunday, I don't have enough time to recover for leg day on Tuesday. So I'm essentially thinking of merging it and having 1 leg day a week. Maybe I think it's time to try that. I'm also adjusting the kinds of exercises that I do. I think it's time to switch up the individual exercises that are done on certain days, because I feel like at some point for certain exercises I reach like a plateau where I need to train other muscle groups to help train this muscle group. I'll give you an example. For like deadlifting and for kind of hamstring movements, you need to build your lower back strength and a little bit of your upper back strength to be able to carry a larger amount of weight sometimes. So doing heavyweight RDLs and doing lots of barbell rows has helped my back cope well with deadlifting, and I've seen the proof, and it's really happened to me where I've strengthened my deadlift by individually isolating and focusing on the upper back muscle group and the lower back muscle group. Anyway, so arm days, I kind of want to keep everything the same. I'm just going to sort of write everything down. Trying to merge my leg days is something very difficult to do because I actually cannot decide what exercises are going to be very effective for me to do that day without burning out. My chiropractor also told me many years ago that I need to be doing more lunges, and I've also been very lazy with those, so I'm definitely adding lunges, and there's no escaping it now. So I've kind of added a rough draft of something. It does look a little complex right now, and I will just sit with it and see what kind of intensities I want for each day and each week based on my cycle, of course. And yeah, I am feeling a little better that I got to sit down and do this because this has been on my mind, I think, for the last 2 months, simply because I usually change my split after 3 months. And I'm glad that I've got to do it now because I have a little bit more clarity on what my physical health is aiming to be for the next 3 to 6 months. So chapter 1 of today is ticked, and now we're going to get and tackle chapter 2, which is some of my finances. So I think when it comes to my finances and talking about that financial side of me, I had quite a lot of goals for myself at the beginning of this year as someone who's no longer a student or kind of taking a break from studying. I wanted to kind of get my finances up or get an idea of what my financial stability would be like for the next year and a half, because I'm deciding, you know, whether I want to continue my studies straight after this year or whether it's a better idea for me to keep working and then potentially obviously move out and do a lot of things that, you know, young adults are supposed to do, I guess. And to be fair, everything was going according to plan and everything was in order except for me needing to buy myself a brand new phone. And for those of you who watched that vlog or kind of knew what happened, it was, I believe, in my April favorites vlog. I did buy a new phone, and at that, it was an iPhone 17 Pro Max. And those of you will know that those phones are not cheap. So that did take quite a hit on, I guess, my goals financially and what I aimed to actually spend my money on or save my money for. So that kind of threw me off a little. However, there wasn't something that I couldn't come back from because I have fully come back from it. But now I am extra cautious and I have this like precariousness around where my money is going. And to be fair, I have not been, you know, treating myself too much recently. A lot of you will know that I love shopping because I share a lot of that on this channel, and I love having things. I love going shopping and I love buying things for myself because I like using my free will. However, it has also made me realize that I need to be a little bit more conscious of where I am keeping my money, where I'm spending my money, where I'm saving it. So I've kind of just been keeping a track on what I have been buying, what I've been spending my money on, what I need to be more conscious about. And as a result of that, I've also been avoiding going out by myself and shopping because I've purposefully been avoiding the malls and, you know, going shopping to buy things because then I just make up an excuse to buy things. But at the same time, I really like going out and exploring, so I would like to exercise my self-restraint, specifically today, since we are kind of tackling this kind of financial thing. We're gonna go to the Cotton On outlet, so financially friendly. I also need to get my car washed, and that's something I have been avoiding, I think, for the last 2 months because it's been very rainy here. I also have a lot of time, so I don't feel rushed to make these rash decisions and just buy things. I'm not working today, so it's gonna be a good day for me to just do some window shopping, looking around, and actually critically analyzing whether I need to actually buy things or, you know, whether we just leave well and well enough alone. So I think errand running and, you know, going outside is going to make me feel a little bit more like myself again, and I think it's going to be really fun to do because I haven't been doing it. So we just got to get my car washed and then we're going to the Cotton On outlet. Let's get going and I'll see you there. So we're here at the car wash. I should have estimated, or I should have, again, thought about it, but clearly it is, of course, late in the afternoon. People are coming back from work, fetching their kids. So obviously the car wash is busy. I am fourth in line, And considering I'm just getting like a wash and go kind of situation, it should be quick. I don't know what these other people are getting, but yeah. It's looking like it's moving quickly, but at the same time, it's not going to be as quick as when I go like in the middle of the day. I changed my nose ring before I left because, I don't know, the hoop has not been fitting with me lately. I think the stud has been very consistent, although I kind of hate that it sticks out at the bottom. And yeah, I kind of tied up my hair because I think I'm gonna need to wash it today. It was looking a little like greasy. My scalp hates winter because I oil it, and then when I sweat it gets greasy, and it's also dry because of the season, so it's tough out here, but we're doing the best we can. So it's currently 3:45 and we've made it into the car wash. It seems like it's gonna take another like 15 minutes, which is not bad at all. I'm just glad I'm getting my car washed. Honestly, I actually forgot about it. Like, it did not occur to me to like check in and see whether my car needs washing, because over the last like month it's been so rainy, and you know, the dust didn't really kick in, but now the dust is like everywhere. And I looked at my car the other day and I was like, nope, we need to take it in for a wash. So here we are. I'm happy I got to tick this off my list and, you know, just get out of the house and do something other than working. So I guess this has been good. And yeah, after this we're going to head over then to the Cotton On outlet. Okay, so I just parked and we're here at the Cotton On outlet, and it's 4:10, which is actually not bad. We've got about an hour and a half until it closes. I don't think I'm going to be here for that long, but yeah, let's get some window shopping in. I think I'm definitely looking for some sort of jacket situation, either a puffer or like fleece. And then maybe some low-waisted sweatpants, because those are not very common. They don't come around much, especially in like a size I like. And then maybe some like vests or winter tops to like wear to the gym or to wear under like a sweater. And I think that's pretty much it. Try our best to be rational and to just enjoy the experience rather than rushing to just buy things. And I think that underlying bit is like my FOMO. I have like an extreme fear of missing out on something that was like right in front of me. So I think, yeah, we're tackling two things at once here. I need to get over my FOMO and also just recognize that my money is only mine until I decide to give it away. So I've tried on this like t-shirt situation. It's supposed to be a workout t-shirt and I really like the style of it, and I found it in pink. It's the pink one. The pink one perfectly matches my pink sweatpants, which I have at home obviously, and I think this one matches my dark gray sweats. The issue is that I don't like how tight it is. It's like really tight, and you know, in winter I like having loose clothing, so I don't think it's a great idea to be getting these, although they are like 2 for 150, which is a steal. I think I'm gonna pass. The second thing I picked up to try was this like light gray white crew neck, and I was wearing the black one obviously, and this one, the crew necks are like high, they're like so high up, and I like that Woolworths makes their crew necks lower, and I'm like a small here and a large at Woolworths for some reason, I don't know. Obviously loose fit, of course, but yeah, I like them loose fit, so I'd rather just get myself a large at Woolworths. They're also cheaper at Woolworths. This is 450 rand, and I can't wrap my head around why. But overall, they have some really good deals here. I just think that I'm gonna give today a pass. So I just got back to the car and the lighting is really hitting me right now, so I think this is the outro for the day. I felt like I established my goal for this week, and I definitely got to take myself out of the house, and I feel a little better. I feel better going around and doing something outside of the house that wasn't work. And yeah, just having a look around, window shopping, and not like spending my money unnecessarily. It is making me feel very grateful for a lot of the things that I have, so we're good. Although I really do like going on a shopping spree once in a while, I really don't need it. And I think it's made me feel a little bit more comfortable that I'm not missing out on anything. So it's definitely healing that FOMO side of me that's a little bit critical, and like if you don't go do it now, you're gonna miss out, and you know, it's a missed opportunity, etc., etc. So I'm feeling a little less critical of myself, and I think that's a successful start to this shadow work. Now in about an hour I'm going to head over to the gym, and we're going to start with pretty much my new workout split, or my adjusted split, some new exercises. At least I got to vlog today, and I got to put in some meaningful reflection and kind of just start my journey to like a little reset for the second half of the year. And so that is it for today's vlog. I will see you guys tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I will see you next time.